So I'm adjusting the order of the lectures a little bit. I decided I didn't want to jump into Hollywood quite yet. What we're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks is looking at the 1920s as a distinctive period in the life of the United States. And I thought it would be better to start with more how were people living, what was going on, the roots of things. And Hollywood is an expression of that, one of the more important expressions, but it's like the flower, not the roots. So we'll get to Hollywood sometime in the course of the next couple of weeks, but we should think of this as a unit, and if you've already done the reading assigned for Hollywood, don't worry, you won't have wasted your time. So, and I thought we might start out by looking at a few home movies, basically, amateur movies that were taken in different places in the 1920s, sometimes in the early 1930s, to get a sense of just everyday life as reflected through the eye of an amateur camera person. The first thing I want to show you is a more urban community. 5 little bits and pieces of films shot in the Japanese-American community in the West Coast. And Stockton is one of the places, Tacoma is another place. Let's see, I'm going to turn off the lights. Yes, okay. So it's not that you're going to see anything special, but what you should be looking for is what is it? So what kind of quality of life do people seem to have, at least on a material level? Obviously, the influence of contemporary pop music. Of course, sociologists who were studying immigrants at this time came up with, for them, astounding finding that people from different immigrant groups living in the United States basically had pretty much the same values and outlooks on different questions, that particularly the grown-up children who were born here looked at the world pretty much like Americans. Shouldn't be surprising to us, but at the time it was considered incomprehensible. So there was a growth of sports in the 1920s, big growth in sports, both professional and amateur. We'll discuss a little bit why later. I think one of the things these films are doing is they're saying, maybe just to the people within the community, look how prosperous we are. Not prosperous in the sense of big bucks, but prosperous in the sense of having a nice family, the foundations for a nice family life. And people go to church. Now, this is a Buddhist church, which is almost like an oxymoron, other than one of the things that we know about the immigrant groups is that their church attendance, their attendance of religious institutions grew dramatically after they came to the United States. And it makes sense in certain terms of the church. A church organization is a way of drawing together the group on a regular basis because it's your social network. It's not just your social network, it's your social safety network. So they even use the word Buddhist church. So it may be that the form of congregation that we have in the United States and the relationship between the religious teacher and the members of the congregation is something that's embedded in U.S. culture, not necessarily in the theology of the various faiths that people in the United States practice. And a place, again, eating well was something that was a mark of being an American. So part of what's being communicated in shots like this is how nicely dressed people are, or the cars that are associated with the community. Swastika, but not a Nazi swastika, remember. The period of the 1920s was a period of tremendous participation in social clubs as well as church groups. People got together on a regular basis. It was a very high levels of social participation, involvement in volunteer action. Back to the children. The tricycles. Tricycle is a new thing at that time. It's like a way of saying, see, we have the consumer goods that any American enjoys. It's not simply an innocent or contentless shot. It's a shot that's emphasizing the material success of the people who are being documented in this film. So now we'll move to another community. We're going to look at a rural community in Maine. Maine was a fishing and agricultural state, also lots of timber. Agriculture was secondary. That is, the farmers in Maine and generally in New England did not produce for global markets, but more for local and regional markets. Let's see. Okay. Back to contents. we are. Okay, we may not watch all of it. Undoubtedly, we won't watch all of it. But yes.
Where do those Japanese people generally live?
They were living in small towns. Tacoma in the north. One of the places was Stockton. The Japanese people primarily lived on the West Coast, not counting Hawaii, which is a different situation. Large population in the city of Los Angeles. Okay, patriotism. The car is always an important symbol of one's integration into consumer society. It was an expensive purchase, even though it had been made cheaper than originally imaginable. And particularly if you lived in a rural community, you were going to need probably 2 or more cars. So, traditional way of harvesting, but already at this time, rather out of date. Though perhaps for farms that are not involved in global markets or national markets, this kind of imagery is still what would be most economical, this level of technology. Now in the 1870s that would have been modern.